My trip to Hawaii was one of the most memorable vacations of my life. I've always wanted to go and enjoy the scenery and do some fun activities. I had family who lived in Honolulu, so thankfully, finding our way around the island wasn't too difficult. They were able to guide us to see beautiful scenes by the beach and in the city. They also took us to restaurants with amazing local food and even went to the bowling alley when we needed a break from the outdoors. Our trip consisted of outdoor and indoor activities that made our vacations unforgettable. Our vacation was filled with experiences that could be explained through physics principles. First things first, how did we get to the beautiful island of Hawaii? I live in California, so we had to book a flight. One of my favorite things about traveling is riding in an airplane to get to my destination. While some of us might look at an airplane and see it as a ginormous piece of metal in the air, how does it work its way up as well as down? There are 4 factors that play a big role to aircraft. There is the weight of an aircraft, the lift, thrust, and drag. The engine of the airplane is going to produce an excessive amount of force that will allow the aircraft to move forward. This is the thrust on an aircraft. The force will be going the opposite direction, which is the drag, to push the aircraft forward. The size and weight of the aircraft is going to determine how much force is needed to move the aircraft. While the airplane is moving forward, the air flowing over the wings will create lift for the aircraft to move in a direction perpendicular to its relative motion. The aircraft then needs to pick up more force and speed for the aircraft to officially take off. About 5 hours later, we're finally flying over the beautiful island of Hawaii and begin to reduce altitude and begin to descend. And after understanding how the airplane was able to get itself into the sky, there's a whole concept of landing a giant piece of metal. And a properly built aircraft will thankfully be able to land with no problem. However, if it was built differently, the giant piece of metal would just plummet directly to the ground. And this relates to Newton's theory of gravity, which explains that every particle in the universe will attract every other particle with a force along a line of joining them. When we finally arrive and get through the airport to meet our family, of course the crowded airport leads to having a hard time finding each other. So I made sure to contact them right away, and I immediately resort to my cell phone to call my family. And thanks to electromagnetic waves, wireless technology was created and allowed us to communicate from a distance. With only a few days of vacation, my family and I wanted to make sure that we did not waste any time and do lots of sightseeing and fun activities. My favorite part of the entire vacation was, of course, going to the beach and parasailing. Spending the whole day at the beach, we made sure to soak in the fresh air and sunlight. It was very important for me to apply sunscreen several times a day, and because the sun rays were beaming so bright, I didn't want to get sunburned because of the strong radiation. The radiation from the sun comes from electromagnetic waves, which is a mixture of infrared and ultraviolet rays. This can become very harmful to your skin. Not only did we swim and relax at the beach, we went parasailing. Parasailing is possible because of the Bernoulli principle, and once the boat starts to accelerate forward, it's important for the boat to exert a large amount of force to increase the amount of speed. This leads to the parachute filling up with air and causing the parachute to pull us up and remain in the air. It was an amazing experience, and interesting how the Bernoulli principle was a great explanation for how parasailing worked. And with spending several days outdoors, we honestly needed a little bit of indoor fun, so we decided to go bowling at the bowling alley. And with a certain amount of force, bowling involves Newton's second law of motion, and this concept is about how applying a certain amount of force is going to change the movement of an object. And in bowling, the idea is to carry a ball, roll it with as much force as possible so it can make its way down the lane and knock down the pins. Most bowling balls are the same size. However, They weigh different, and the weight of each bowling ball is going to depend on how much force needs to be exerted when rolling it down the aisle. One last full day in Hawaii, my family had to work, so my husband and I were left to find our way around all by ourselves. Seeing as we were just visiting the area, we were very unfamiliar with where to go. Thankfully, we had our cell phones where we could wirelessly access a GPS, and this was such a big help to us because it literally told us where to go and when we would arrive at our destination. This was all possible because of orbiting satellites that surround the Earth, and each satellite holds an atomic clock that transmits time, signals, and travel at a finite speed. This helps us determine how far each satellite is and figure out our locations. Physics principles can be found all around us, and sometimes we might not even realize it, but most of the things we experience have to do with physical properties that have been discovered and remain with us to this day. My trip to Hawaii was filled with so much fun and adventure, but these activities were just a few that stood out to me.